Hey everybody. This is a little bit more than what I wanted to do for this movie, but I'm going to highly criticize the movie Blade Runner 2049. So now we're going to get into nitty-gritty nitpicking. Now, actually, a friend of everything, a friend of all of this, he wanted to really, or he or she, I'm not quite sure, wanted to really get into the nitty gritty of certain points, and they sent me a lot of points. And I wanted to actually read this to you and expand a little bit. Okay? So, point number one: the streets of 2049 have cleanly dressed people just doing mundane things like walking, standing there, or just eating something. It's such a faceless bunch compared to the original Blade Runner, where all sorts of cultural society, social clashes of identities, busy in their daily activities, Japanese, Chinese, Indian, Arabs, uh, chanting. It goes on for a while. Shabbily dressed ostrich sellers, seller with an eye patch, spiky-haired people, street punks, etc. These are supposed to be the lower class of sickly people left behind on Earth, unable to migrate to the off-worlds. But in the sequel, we hardly get much of such indications on the streets, in contrast to how richly descriptive the first movie's streets passerbys look. One look at the street of the first movie, we get that they are people of the lower class struggling in poverty, but here, not so much. Now, let's elaborate on that. Now, you are 100% right. 100%. You look at the other movie when they show the wides. I'm gonna bump into this all day long. When they have the wides, you have such immense just scale. And when you say scale, you mean social scale. You have social scale in in that movie. This movie, you have scale, but just camera wides. You don't really have scale in what the social world is like. You don't. You have more of like, hey, look, I'm looking outside right here, my window. I don't see a single person. There's nobody out there. But over there in Blade Runner 1, you have so much to see. In Blade Runner, you could see every little detail that's going out and moving around there. And you're like, oh, you can see just the essence of that character acts like this or looks like this or does that. You can see that, of course. This movie, I feel like it's a one-man show. This movie, you only see like three or four people in the entire movie legitimate characters in any way. I mean, yeah, there's like the one scene where he's walking up the stairs to his apartment, and you see some people just saying stuff, but they're all just insulting that he's basically a replicant. You're like, okay, cool, that's it, and some people standing around. You look at movies like uh, the new Judge Dredd or Dredd. They had more of a social commentary. You saw more of the world around them, yet they had millions, $100 million less. I think they only had like a $60 million budget for that, if that. And they did more with the social commentary of just the social structure in that movie than they did with this movie at all. Moving on. Now, you're asking me, why didn't you do all of this kind of review in the last one? I made it short and simple. I kind of brushed over this by saying there's a lot of little nitpicks I could do, but I'm just going to keep this short. Mainly, my last review was just talking about the structure of the story in question, the main character's struggle story arc, and how flawed and kind of broken that was. Here, now we're getting into the idea of building and creating a sci fi movie properly and how much this failed. You're welcome. So, number two, point two. The police chief, being so experienced in dealing with strong, powerful rebel replicants, did nothing to defend herself but just stand there to let love murder her. True. But let's get a little more into it. That's ridiculous. I can't find any explanation for her lack of action except that the director thinks it looks cool to let her die that way, thinking the replicant is too powerful for her to do anything to defend herself. No matter how powerful the replicant is, the police chief has to have some fighting chance with her years of experience dealing with them. Duh. Okay. So, I mean, she must have some sort of alarm system at her desk, or at least her gun or something, right? But she did practically nothing and just stands there while the kung fu replicant walks towards her slowly. It's just silly. Let's talk about this. So, we are not given the idea of what this world is like. We don't know if this is kind of like a world of the movie Demolition Man, where the police are like, oh, we don't know how to hurt anybody. We don't know any of this because we don't live in a society like this. Now, I can say that the movie much contradicts this because there is a little bit of fighting, there is a little bit of action taking place, but we don't know the level of training. Is this like a Dread where these people are highly, they're judge, jury, and executioner? We don't know. We don't really go into that too much. Now, that does not put this movie on, you know, in a some kind of, grace where it's like, we can live with that. No, 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 no. She does give up too easily. But this kind of goes along with the director's broken story. He needed an antagonist. He needed an antagonist that wasn't society anymore. Before, the police chief was the antagonist. What do you mean? She was the antagonist as in she was society. She was what we see as society saying the replicants cannot produce, and if they do produce, this is bad stuff that will happen. So what the director had to do was the director had to kill the previous antagonist to introduce a new one. Was that bad? Yes. Is that why they killed her? Yes. Because she was the antagonist. She was the previous antagonist. Now we have to kill her off to bring in a new antagonist for the movie. I see why they did it. Was it done well? Not at all. This goes along with I don't think the storyline worked. The story of this movie did not work because they just wanted to write in there really quick. Decker. We're going to put Decker into the movie. Yeah, that's where it didn't work. Number 3. The way they dress up Decker is really distracting. It's so contemporary to have Decker in a plain t-shirt and jeans, which is more like how the actor Harrison Ford dresses in real life rather than how Decker dresses in the first movie. I feel like I'm watching Harrison Ford, the actor, rather than Decker, the character from the first movie. And irritatingly, they again turn the whole movie into about his my wife and daughter like he has done countless times repeatedly in many of his other movies. I touched on that. I hated the fact that they brought Decker in. I hated it so much. Um, it is a cop out. It is the worst part of the movie. Um, I feel like Harrison Ford just doesn't give a shit anymore. He is old as fuck, and he doesn't want to do these movies. He doesn't want to do any movie, and they just paid him a lot of money, and he said, "Ah, fuck it, let's do it." But I think a lot of it is he just doesn't want it. He doesn't care. Doesn't care. I hate how the old characters, Rachel and Gaff, are brought back in the sequel. The two characters were cool, unique characters, and in the first movie, Rachel was incredibly beautiful, but is now a dowdy, droopy looking mom and a badly recreated CGI clone that fails to recapture any of her beauty. Gaff was the quiet, mysterious, shadowy figure in the first movie who speaks mysterious quotes every time he opens his mouth, but in the sequel has become this bloated uncle dressed as some sort of sanitarium janitor stuck in an old folks' home, totally lost his city speak accent dialect, reminiscent about a buddy cop relationship that he had with Deckard, which he never had with Deckard in the first movie, since he's shown repeatedly being rude to Deckard, even at the end where he is rudely. Hold on. Rude to Deckard, even at the end of the movie, where he's rudely thrown Deckard's gun on the wet floor rather than hand it personally to him. I mean, you're right. You're completely right. Looking at the characters, I feel like what they did here was they totally pulled a Star Wars sequels, like the new trilogy. They just, you know what? It would be cool if we had this kind of a character. It would be cool if we did this. It would be cool if we did that. I totally agree with you. And yes, that is nitpicking. It's incredibly nitpicking. Now, does this make or break the movie? No. Is it anybody coming into the movie for the first time? Let's say you never watched Blade Runner 1. You don't care. You're like, okay. So you messed up a character. Okay, cool. It's not going to change the movie whatsoever. And I see that. I 100% see that. I'm going to take these off. 100% see that. But the problem is, for those, this is a movie not just to be on its own. This is a movie that's supposed to make you feel certain things about the original, make you feel, hey, I've seen the original. This is a sequel, but they ruin that. They do. They actually do ruin that. So you're ruining a love fan base for one of the most cult classic movies of all time. You're ruining that, and you're bringing in a change of character for what? For what reason? Why? You're not. It's not changing the movie. It's not hurting the movie. It's not like none of this does anything but just hurt fans. So even just changing them back to the regular way won't ruin fans. It's not gonna, or it's not gonna ruin the movie, and it will just help the fans really like the movie. But yet fans are gonna hate it because of what you did. So creatively, that was just a bad choice. Number five. That scene when Kay walks through the door of the orphanage really irks me. The way the orphans crowd around him when he walks through looks like so choreographed and unnatural. It's like they were just sitting there the whole day waiting for someone to walk through the door so they can do this to everyone. It's like a bad music video, worse than the Tina Turner music video for "We Don't Need Another Hero." You're completely right. You're completely right. Uh, I give the movie a pass on this point alone, mainly because it's kids, and it's just one of those things where a lot of kids aren't really good actors. But yes, it does irk me when you see bad directing or bad acting, and you're like, they couldn't have directed it a little bit better in any way because they just couldn't get they were only paying like $50 per kid. Hey, oh, here's $50. Yeah, come over here. Yeah, yeah. Well, this is fine. People won't care. I think that's what was going on. I highly agree with you. It doesn't irk me as much as it irks you, mainly because I'm more irked with the storytelling aspect. The story is what really gets me, and that is what bothers me the most whenever like something it hits you and goes, I hate it so much. Like this is off topic, but Lord of the Rings, where it's like, hey, by the way, you had a trump card. You could have used ghosts the whole time, and Sauron didn't have to do all this stuff, and you're like, so you could have just forgiven people and saved millions, hundreds of millions of lives. Gotcha. The ghosts. I hate the ghosts. Ghosts. Yeah. Ghosts irk me. But I love the trilogy of that. I love it. All right, moving on. Number 6. I do not think the visuals in the movie deserve an Oscar, as there are plenty of scenes with very flat, uninteresting lights, which are sometimes too dark or too saturated. The orange of the Las Vegas street is too saturated and flat looking. The orphanage and furnace factory have very uninteresting lights. The dark water fight at the end is so dark you can hardly see anything of the surroundings. They lost a great opportunity to showcase the fight against an epic backdrop, but not showing this huge sea wall or the hazy sky, etc. Okay. Yes. I was so bothered by especially the ending. The ending fight sequence was so bland and boring, and uh, the way it was shot just sucked. But um, the backdrop. You're like, this is going to be a really cool backdrop. What happened? But I see that he was going for like a weird color palette through the entire thing. Do I agree with it? No. Was it his vision? Yes. Did he have Roger Deakins, who was amazing at lighting and color? Yeah. But I think it's a directorial thing. He just that's what he wanted. And you're like, okay. It's not amazing, but I've seen it done better. But that's his way of wanting things. I want it dark. I want it this. I want it that. It's like, okay, well, as a director, I mean, your choices were bad. You can't fault anybody else. It's just the director. Your choices on that were kind of bad. It didn't scream amazing to me. The music of the movie is one of the few things I do like, but very inferior to the first movie's wonderful thin synth tracks. Synth. I don't know why I couldn't say that. The first movie's music has masterpiece tracks, each with its own unique emotional melodies and distinctive atmospheric soundscapes. But the sequel, the music has hardly any discernible melodies. It's more of like a series of rhythmic, interesting sound effects. So I find them less emotional, just more thumping and uniformly textured. But I won't blame the composer, as he was brought in at last minute replacement due to the original musician's pieces not living up to expectations of the director. So, yes, I agree with you. So much through the movie, I was like, it's just a boom, dim, 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 boom, dim, dim. You could literally do the whole movie with your own mouth. You can use your own mouth and go boom, 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 and you would have the entire soundtrack of that movie. Um, I completely agree. Now, was I completely blew away by, uh, like when I talk about, was I completely blown away by the sheer lack of musical score? No. Did it help bore the shit out of me? Yes. Was I bored during this movie? Immensely. Was I bored through lack of music? Probably. Uh, yeah. No, I didn't feel anything musically. It didn't make or break me. It didn't even make me happy. There was just nothing notable about it. And I think that's the worst thing about it to say is there's just nothing to talk about when it comes to the music. And it's like it happened, move on, you know? That's actually for a movie of this caliber, of this size and scale, you want to talk about every little aspect of the movie, but the music you just kind of go, move on. Wallace says he can only make so many replicants, but we still don't know what his in what ways his plans conflicts with humans' plans at using replicants to help expand human space colonies. Is Wallace trying to populate the galaxies with humans or replicants? The way he kills the newly made female replicant is such a cold manner suggests he has no fondness for them emotionally. So what's his point of making them en masse? The movie visually portrays him as some sort of cold blooded villain, but it's so vague about his plans. Yes, and that's one of the things I kind of touched on a little bit, just vaguely. He's supposed to be a villain, yet we don't know anything about him. We don't know what his entire plans are. We don't know anything about what's going on. And no, you're completely right. When we really look at everything, including his dialogue, when he'll be like, "Oh, human beings were made by slave or the what was it? It was like the I'm trying to get it exact, but no, society was built on slaves and whatever, whatever, whatever." No, they weren't. If you really looked at if you're trying to be like this super smart and intelligent character in your movie, you would realize that slaves actually hurt everything. The Industrial Revolution didn't happen until slavery was abolished. When slavery was abolished, we had the biggest wave of industrial revolution the humankind has ever seen because we had to come up with the cotton gin, we had to come up with this, and then industrialization just boomed, and we became uh, so advanced because of the abolition of slavery. So his comments of this doesn't make any sense. It's like you're just showing how stupid you are. And so your intelligence is completely flawed. Uh, any historian, literally any historian, could tell you that we literally had went stagnant when slavery was around. So, oh, congratulations, that's stupid. But then you have all of this stupid plot development from him, but yet there is no plot development from him on a villain level. We don't know what he wants because he's so vague on what he wants. And we just see, oh, he kills some of the replicants that aren't perfect. Okay, so that replicant isn't perfect. So how many now I assume this is a new breed of replicant and he was like, "Oh, look, we've tried something new. It's going to be much better. It's going to be different." So I'm pretty sure he doesn't sit there with every single one that was, you know, hatched. And I'm assuming that he wants them to be more human-like because he wants to be God. So I think that's what they were getting at. Did they hit it right? No. Were they trying to do that? I think so. And no, they that for a 3 hour movie, you failed on a lot of aspects, on things you could have literally just spent 2 more minutes fixing. It's also very self-contradictory that for Kay to simplify simply fly Deckard to see his daughter in the end to totally defeats the whole point of them hiding his daughter's whereabouts from the Wallace Corporation and the police. Does this way of reuniting them immediately put both of them in danger since the Wallace henchmen are likely already on their way to chase down Deckard? Wouldn't that expose the whereabouts of Deckard's daughter? Shouldn't the father and daughter be reunited in a less obvious manner to avoid them being traced by Wallace and the police? Yes, but you have to realize the movie's not about them because the movie is mainly about just Ryan Gosling's character. So we don't care. We don't care at all. I was doing a weird, funny face when I said that, and I just literally, I don't know, I gleeked saying that. But we don't care. No, no, we don't care at all. Uh, we don't care so much for Decker that we brought him in the last 20 minutes of the movie and said, "Ha, there you go. There's your fan service. Now let's push that away. We don't give a crap." So that's the main fact of it all. It's like the 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 audience won't even care. The only people who care are the fans who got a little bit of what they wanted for something that they didn't even ask for. And that's the thing is I don't think the filmmakers cared. They were like, "Oh, you assume what's gonna happen. Oh, they're probably gonna die, but it's okay. Look, Ryan Gosling's character, he's laying there and he's like, I'm not special, bro. I'm not special. You know, I think that's really I think that's the way they wanted you to feel. So I'm not gonna fault them for that. I mean, I think that's exactly how they intended it to be. So yeah, is that dumb? Kinda. It's kind of dumb. But yeah, no, you're completely right about everything you're saying, and I 100% agree with you. Um, why didn't I want to like totally like dig into that? I think what I'm gonna start doing, if you've ever seen like CinemaSins, I'm gonna take some of these really bad movies and I'm going to go step by step and to show how absolutely dumb these movies really are. So, so prepare for something like that. So I can do that with like a Blade Runner, but Blade Runner 2049. But I think I'm going to start out with a few of them that really irk me down to a core, and I'm going to move my way through it. And we'll see if people are just going to go, "Oh my God, you just copied that from CinemaSins." It's like, yeah, but they don't like they're doing it for humor. I want to really nitpick movies. Really reach down in there and say that's dumb. Can we not circle that and say that's dumb? So, I'm going to do that. So thank you everybody. Have a good one.